I, 32 have been the family ATM for nearly a decade. I'm a software engineer, and while I'm not private jet wealthy, I make enough that I've been single-handedly keeping my mother, 58F, and my sister, 36F, afloat since my dad passed away 8 years ago. My dad left behind a mess of debt, and to keep my mom from being homeless, I actually bought her house from the bank during foreclosure. I'm the sole owner on the deed, but I let her live there rent-free while I cover the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and even her groceries. I also pay the gap for my sister and her husband because they refuse to hold down full-time jobs. The breaking point happened last weekend at my niece's Sweet 16. My sister pulled the "my daughter will be traumatized if she doesn't have a big party" card, so I dropped $15,000 on a high-end venue, catering, a DJ, and a designer dress. I did it for my niece, who's actually a good kid despite her parents. 10 minutes into the party, my mom pulls me aside. She doesn't thank me. Instead, she sneers at the $200 centerpieces and says the appetizers look budget. She literally told me, "This party is cheap and embarrassing. Your father would be ashamed. Honestly, we'd be better off without you and your condescending attitude. You ruin the vibe of this family." My sister walked up and actually nodded, saying I was tacky for acting like I owned the place just because I paid for it. I didn't argue. I just looked at them and said, "In that case, I'll stop paying your bills. If I'm so embarrassing to have around, I'll remove myself and my money from the equation immediately." My mom cackled and told me I was too weak to follow through and that I needed them to feel important. She reminded me the mortgage was due the next day and told me not to be late. I left before the cake was cut. That night, I didn't just stop the payments. I started a total financial deconstruction. I canceled the auto pay for my mom's utilities and insurance. I emailed my sister's landlord, since I'm the guarantor on her lease, and told him I wouldn't be renewing the guarantee in 30 days. The next morning, my mom called screaming because her power was out. I told her I was just being cheap and embarrassing as requested. Then I dropped the real bomb. I told her she'd be receiving a formal 30-day notice to quit. Since I'm so terrible to be around, I decided to sell the house. While my lawyer was drafting the eviction papers, I did a deep dive into the bank accounts I'd been subsidizing. I found out my mom had been hiding a secret savings account with over $40,000 in it. She'd been taking the emergency money I sent her for medicine and funneling it there. Even worse, I found payments to a lawyer. She was preparing to sue me for constructive trust to try and steal the deed to the house, arguing that it should be hers because she lived there so long. I also found my dad's old laptop in storage. I discovered that the debt that ruined him wasn't bad luck. My mom had lost $200,000 in a Ponzi scheme years ago, and my dad worked himself to death trying to pay it back while she played the victim. When I went to the house with a locksmith to secure the property, my mom had a total meltdown in the driveway, calling me a monster to the neighbors. I didn't care. I removed the high-end stainless steel appliances I had bought and replaced them with the cheapest, most beat-up used ones I could find. I told her the cheap looks suited her better. My sister tried to guilt-trip me, but I told her I knew about the secret money and the lawsuit. Then she and my mom went nuclear on Facebook, posting that I was evicting a widow for fun. I didn't trade insults. I just posted a link to a folder with the $15,000 party receipts, the screenshot of my brother-in-law threatening to handle me, and a redacted shot of my mom's $40,000 bank balance. The neighborhood went silent real fast. Desperate, my mom tried to list the guest rooms of the house on a short-term rental site to pocket quick cash. I had to show up with the cops to kick out a tenant she'd taken $500 from. She stood on the porch screaming that she'd pour concrete down the drains and burn the place down. I told her the house was now under 24/7 camera surveillance, and I'd updated the insurance to cover intentional damage. I told her if she broke a single tile, I'd push for felony vandalism charges. She even tried to get an emergency restraining order against me to stall the eviction, but I showed the judge the footage of her threatening to burn the house. The judge threw her out of court. My lawyer also got her constructive trust lawsuit dismissed because she had zero proof, and I had every receipt showing I bought the house to save it from her own previous financial disasters. On eviction day, the sheriff forced the door open. My mom and sister had smeared food on the walls and ripped some carpet, but the movers I hired tossed their stuff into bags and put it on the curb. As they were being let out, my mom screamed that I'd die alone. I told her, "At least I'll have the money and the house." I sold the house that afternoon to a developer for a $200,000 profit. I also sued my mom for unjust enrichment to get back the money she scammed out of me under the guise of being broke. We settled for most of her secret savings just to make the legal headache go away for her. I've moved 3 states away, changed my number, and blocked everyone. My sister and her husband are in a motel because no landlord will touch them without a guarantor, and my mom is in a tiny low-income apartment. They finally got exactly what they asked for, a life without me. If you think this was a top-tier way to handle an entitled family, subscribe for more. I promise my stories won't cost you $15,000 and a headache. Would you guys want to hear about the hilarious cease and desist letter my sister's husband tried to write me on a napkin?